Welcome to Frequency Matters, the RF and Microwave Update series. I'm Pat Hindle. I'm here with my co-host Gary LaRude. In this episode, we're going to continue our coverage of the November Government and Military Electronics issue. As a reminder, the cover story is written by JetCool, and they talk about how thermal dissipation techniques used now by thermal spreading are not sufficient for high-powered devices like GaN. So they've developed a new cooling system, and that's based on a direct die-attach microconvection cooling system that uses high-velocity fluids to cool that, and the thermal efficiency is greatly improved. So it's really well suited for high-performance radar and space applications.
Yeah, very interesting article on technology.
So we covered the technical features last time, so let's take a look at products. What do we have for the product feature?
So we have one product feature from Sage Millimeter. It's a really interesting, what they call the Uniguide waveguide connector. We actually did a special on this in one of our earlier Frequency Matters episodes. It's really interesting because in a typical hermetic package, you have a glass bead with basically a wire going through it, and it's got a glass to metal seal to make it hermetic. And normally you connect a connector using a flange mount to the housing, and you can go from SMA up to 1 millimeter. Well, in this case, Sage has developed a waveguide connector that's basically the same interface, and they have 3 products so far covering WR28, WR22, and WR19, but they intend to develop a full range that goes from basically 8 gigahertz up to 110 gigahertz. And it's got very good performance, very low insertion loss, as well as low VSWR. So it's a really nice waveguide connector that should simplify a lot of the development work that people are doing.
Yeah, it could be an industry standard.
Exactly. I think they'd like to see it that. The other thing we should mention, as you well know, Sage Millimeter is changing their name to Aerovant in March of next year. And the ERA stands for kind of a new era for the company, and Vant relates to savant, which means someone who's has a lot of knowledge, particularly in the technical field. And so they think of savant as most of their customers are very knowledgeable, and also the founder very knowledgeable. So it's kind of a new look on the company, but nothing has changed. They haven't been sold. There's no change in management. They continue the strategy that they adopted when they formed Sage Millimeter. So, but a new name that we'll get used to.
They'll be making that transition in March of 2020, right?
Right, exactly. So how about tech briefs? We had a few tech briefs this month.
Yeah, we had 4 of them, and 3 were very high power solutions. So there was a 30 kilowatt SSPA for P-band radar from Daco Industries, and then there was also a 2 kilowatt broadband jammer covering HF to microwave from Albrecht Telecommunications. And we also had high power emitters for open air range threat simulation from Empower RF. And the 4th one was Halsworth Instrumentation. They've extended their phase noise analyzer to 40 gigahertz now.
Wow.
So
we just heard about them being acquired.
We did. So turning to the news, Wireless Telecom Group is acquiring Halsworth for $8 million, and they will fold them into their test and measurement segment. Halsworth is really looking forward to this. They think it'll really expand their presence in the market because they'll have access to the worldwide sales force of Wireless Telecom Group. And of course, Wireless Telecom Group gets that technology for the synthesizers and the phase noise analyzers. So I think it'll be good for both companies.
Yeah, it's a really nice complementary acquisition.
Since this is our government and military electronics issue, there was a significant news item in A&D area. L3Harris and Northrop Grumman announced that they've been awarded a contract by the U.S. Air Force to develop an internal EW suite along with a digital radar warning receiver for the F-16. And so they'll both be doing a prototype and testing that in the initial phase.
Yeah, a lot of funding going into electronic warfare these days.
Yeah, it is good these days.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you see in the news?
Well, a few things. At the MACOM earnings call, Steve Daly gave an update on their GaN strategy, which was interesting. No change in terms of GaN on silicon. They're pushing forward with that, their partnership with STMicroelectronics. They see the target market for that as the massive MIMO. Think it's a perfect fit when you consider the performance and the volume and the cost. But it's interesting. He said they're widening the aperture, I think is what the terms he used in their strategy, and they plan to release products with GaN on silicon carbide. Now, MACOM has had a GaN on silicon carbide process, but it seemed like they kind of de-emphasized it.
Right.
But he's indicated they're really kind of going out to look at what the industry offers in terms of foundry for GaN on silicon carbide. He says he wants his designers to have access to the best process, and that there are some applications, high power, military, satellite communications, where GaN on silicon carbide is the best solution. And so they're going to pursue that path. So I thought that was interesting. Another item, the Ajit Pai, who's the FCC chair, has kind of come out in favor of a government auction for C-band spectrum against the C-band Alliance proposal that they do the auction. This is not an official decision, but I'm sure we'll see it come up at a FCC meeting in the near future. And then kind of related to satellite, one of the low Earth orbit satellite constellations, LeoSat, has basically closed their doors, turned off the lights. They were trying to raise $35 million in funding to get going. They were one of the early players in this area, but they had 2 people lined up and both pulled out, so they ran out of money and it's done. So I think it's hard when you're competing with people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, who have tons of money to throw at this problem.
Yeah, it still seems like there's a lot of satellite constellations, and you only need a couple of them at most. So
Exactly.
I think there'll be more fallout.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So turning to events, I think we've wrapped up our coverage for the year for trade shows. We will be attending Radio Wireless Symposium and DesignCon in the end of January, both the same week, so we'll have to make fast work of those. And we'll do some coverage of CES, but won't be necessarily attending that one.
Right.
I did want to remind everybody that the ED-ICON online sessions are available for on-demand viewing at any time, and those are free to everybody. You can go to edicononline.com to check those out. And our next episode will be our last of the year, so look for mid-December for our annual holiday edition. Might see some ugly sweater action or something like that.
I wonder if I should go get a new ugly sweater.
I think one is enough.
Yeah, that's probably true. So I think that wraps it up for this episode. Another reminder for next year as we start looking at 2020, we do have some sponsorship opportunities for Frequency Matters. Also our new podcast, we have some interesting ideas around that. So if either of those intrigue you, please be in touch with us. We also want to thank our longtime sponsor, MACOM, for making this episode possible. You know, MACOM is your partner from RF to Light, and they're putting a lot of emphasis now on new product development. So check them out for products that you may need. Until next time.